The first thing Emma noticed when she walked into her new boss's office was the voice deep, calm, familiar. A voice she had listened to almost every night for 6 months. Her heart stopped. The man standing behind the enormous glass desk slowly looked up from his laptop. Their eyes met. Neither of them moved. Emma's fingers tightened around the folder in her hands. No. The man's expression changed instantly. Emma? She swallowed hard. That voice, it was him. The man she had known online as Alex. The man who had listened to her cry after her mother's illness. The man who had stayed awake until 3 in the morning talking to her when she felt completely alone. The man who had never asked about her appearance, her money, or her background. The man she had fallen for without ever seeing his face. And now he was standing 3 feet away from her, wearing an expensive black suit. His name wasn't Alex. It was Alexander Carter, her new boss. The CEO of the company she had spent years dreaming of working for. Emma stared at him in disbelief. "You're Alex?" Alexander slowly stood. "And you're Emma." For several seconds, the huge office was completely silent. Then Emma gave a nervous laugh. "This can't be happening. I've been thinking the same thing." She looked toward the door. "I should leave." "Why?" "Because you're my boss." Alexander's expression softened. "Before I was your boss, I was the man you talked to every night. That makes it worse." "Why?" "Because I trusted you." His face fell. "You still can." Emma shook her head. "I don't even know what is real anymore." Alexander walked around the desk but stopped several feet away, giving her space. "Everything I told you was real. Even your name?" "No." She looked at him sharply. "That part wasn't. I didn't lie because I wanted to deceive you. You used another name. I was afraid." Emma stared at him. The powerful CEO who terrified half the company suddenly looked almost vulnerable. "Afraid of what?" "That someone would like me because of my money." Emma said nothing. Alexander continued quietly. "I wanted someone who knew nothing about my company, my family, or my bank account. I wanted someone who could talk to me without expecting anything." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "And you chose me?" "I didn't choose you." He smiled faintly. "You became the person I looked forward to talking to every night." Emma looked down. That was exactly how she had felt. Before she knew his real identity, Alexander had been the only person who made her feel seen. He remembered the little things. Her favorite coffee, the song she played whenever she was nervous, the fact that she hated thunderstorms, the way she became quiet whenever someone criticized her. And when her mother had needed expensive medical treatment, Alexander had never asked for anything in return. He had simply told her, "You don't have to carry everything alone." Emma had believed those words. Now she wasn't sure whether she could believe anything. "I need this job," she whispered. Alexander nodded. "Then you'll have it." "Because I'm your online girlfriend?" His eyes widened. "We were never officially." "Exactly." Emma grabbed the folder from the desk. "I'll keep things professional." She turned toward the door. "Emma." She stopped. Alexander's voice became softer. "I missed you before I even knew you were the woman walking through that door." She closed her eyes. That sentence hurt more than she expected. Because she had missed him too. 3 months later, Emma had almost convinced herself that she had moved on. Almost. She kept her distance from Alexander at work. She answered his emails professionally. She never stayed late if he was in the office. She stopped checking her phone at night. But Alexander noticed everything. He noticed when she skipped lunch. He noticed when she quietly paid for a struggling coworker's medication. He noticed when she stayed late, helping an elderly cleaner finish her work. And one evening, he finally understood something. He hadn't fallen for the woman behind the online profile. He had fallen for Emma, the real Emma, the woman who gave away her last sandwich because someone else hadn't eaten, the woman who never mentioned the kindness afterward, the woman who could be exhausted and still stop to help someone else. That night, Alexander found her alone in the office. "You should go home." "So should you?" He smiled. You're getting brave. I learned from someone. Alex? Her smile disappeared. Alexander stepped closer. I'm sorry. For what? For making you afraid to trust me. Emma looked away. You broke the one thing we had. I know. Silence filled the room. Then Alexander placed a small envelope on the desk. Emma looked at it. What is that? Something I should have given you a long time ago. She opened it. Inside was a photograph. It showed Alexander sitting alone at a hospital beside an elderly woman. Emma recognized the woman immediately. Her mother. Emma's breathing stopped. What? Alexander's voice trembled. The night your mother was admitted. You told me you couldn't afford the treatment. Emma stared at him. I told you not to send money. I didn't. Then how? I called the hospital. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I arranged financial assistance through a foundation. Your name was never connected to mine. She couldn't speak. Alexander looked at her. I didn't do it so you'd love me. A tear rolled down Emma's cheek. I did it because you mattered to me. Emma covered her mouth. For months, she had believed his kindness had been part of an online illusion. Now she realized the opposite. The man she had fallen for online had been hiding his wealth. But he had never hidden his heart. Alexander took a slow breath. Emma, I know I'm your boss. I know this is complicated. So I'm not asking you to answer me tonight. He stepped back. I just want you to know one thing. She looked at him. I don't want another secret identity. I don't want another screen between us. His eyes remained fixed on hers. I want to know you in the real world. Emma's tears continued falling. And if you let me, he paused, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that the man you trusted online is the same man standing in front of you now. Emma couldn't answer. Not yet. But for the first time since discovering his identity, she didn't walk away. Emma stood completely still. Alexander's words remained between them like something too fragile to touch. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But wanting something and trusting it were two different things. You should go, she whispered. Alexander's expression tightened. Okay. He didn't argue. He didn't ask her to stay. He simply picked up his jacket and walked toward the door. Emma watched him leave. The moment the door closed, she sank into her chair and covered her face. She had spent 6 months loving a man she had never seen. Then she discovered he was her boss, and somehow, that wasn't even the most frightening part. The most frightening part was that she still loved him. The next morning, everything changed. When Emma arrived at Carter Global, she expected Alexander to avoid her. Instead, his assistant approached her before she even reached her desk. Mr. Carter wants to see you. Emma's stomach tightened. About work? I believe so. She walked into his office. Alexander was standing near the window. He didn't turn around immediately. Close the door. Emma did. He finally looked at her. I've made a decision. Her heart sank. What decision? I've transferred your position. Emma blinked. What? You'll report directly to the head of marketing. Why? Because I don't want my feelings to interfere with your career. Emma stared at him. You're firing me? No. His voice was firm. I'm protecting you. I don't need protection. I know. He walked toward his desk. That is exactly why I respect you. Emma's anger softened slightly. So I'll still have my job? You'll have a better position. She stared at him. Why? Because you're qualified. He pushed a folder toward her. Inside was a promotion letter. Emma looked at the salary. Her eyes widened. This is too much. You earned it. She looked up. And us? Alexander became quiet. That depends on you. Emma swallowed. I don't know what I want. I understand. You're not going to pressure me? No. He looked directly into her eyes. I waited 6 months to meet you. I can wait a little longer to earn your trust. That sentence stayed with her all day. That evening, Emma returned home exhausted. Her apartment was small and quiet. She dropped her bag onto the sofa and stared at her phone. For months, one notification had made her heart race. Alex is online. She hadn't spoken to him under that name since discovering who he was. Her finger hovered over the old chat. Then she opened it. Hundreds of messages appeared. Are you home? Did you eat? Don't work too late. I know you're pretending you're okay. You can tell me anything. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Then she noticed something she had never seen before. A message from 6 months earlier. Alex, if I ever meet you, I hope I don't disappoint you. Emma stared at the screen. She whispered, You didn't. 2 weeks passed. Emma and Alexander barely spoke outside work. But something strange began happening. He started appearing wherever she needed help. When Emma's car battery died in the company parking lot, Alexander was there. When she forgot her umbrella during a storm, he left one outside her office. When she worked late, food appeared on her desk. No notes, no explanations, just small acts of kindness. Emma knew who was behind them, and somehow that made her heart ache even more. One Friday night, the company held a charity gala. Emma almost didn't attend. She wasn't comfortable around wealthy people, but her new department had been assigned to organize the event. She had no choice. She arrived wearing a simple black dress. The moment she entered the ballroom, conversations stopped. Not because of the dress, because Alexander was standing across the room. His eyes found hers immediately. For a few seconds, the CEO disappeared. There was only Alex, the man who had once stayed awake talking to her until sunrise. Alexander walked toward her. You look beautiful. Emma smiled nervously. Thank you. Are you nervous? A little? Stay near me. She looked at him. That's probably a bad idea. He smiled. Then stay where you can see me. Before she could answer, a woman approached them. She was elegant, confident, and clearly comfortable in Alexander's world. Alexander. He turned. Victoria. Emma stepped back. Victoria looked at her, then at Alexander. So this is her. Emma's expression changed. What does that mean? Victoria smiled. I've heard a lot about you. Alexander's voice became cold. Victoria, this isn't the place. Oh, relax. She looked at Emma. You should know that Alexander's family has already chosen his future wife. Emma froze. Alexander's jaw tightened. That's enough. Victoria laughed softly. You didn't tell her? Emma looked at Alexander. What is she talking about? He said nothing. Victoria continued. His father made the arrangement months ago. Emma felt the room spinning. You were engaged? No. Alexander's answer came immediately. It was never an engagement. Victoria's smile disappeared. My family expects. I don't care what they expect. Alexander looked at Emma. I never agreed to marry anyone. Emma's heart was pounding. Then why didn't you tell me? I wanted to handle it before bringing you into my family's problems. Victoria scoffed. You really think his family will accept her? Alexander turned toward her. You don't get to decide who my family accepts. Then he took Emma's hand. For the first time, he didn't care who was watching. We're leaving. Outside, the cold night air hit Emma's face. She pulled her hand away. You should have told me. I know. You keep saying that. Because it's true. She looked at him. Who is she? Someone my father wanted me to marry. And now? Alexander stepped closer. Now I know exactly who I want. Emma's heart raced. You can't just say things like that. Why? Because I might believe you. His expression softened. I want you to. She looked away. Alexander, I love you. Emma stopped breathing. He had never said those words aloud. Not even online. Not once, Alexander continued. I loved talking to you before I knew what you looked like. I loved the woman who made me laugh when I had forgotten how. I loved the woman who cared more about her mother's health than money. I loved the woman who helped strangers when nobody was watching. He reached for her hand. And now I love the woman standing in front of me. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I love you too. Alexander's face changed. You do? She nodded. But I'm scared. So am I. You're the CEO. And you're the first person who has ever made me forget I'm one. She laughed through her tears. For the first time in weeks, the tension between them disappeared. Then Alexander did something she never expected. He got down on one knee. Emma's eyes widened. Alexander, He reached into his pocket. I know this isn't perfect. He opened a small ring box, but neither of us started perfectly. Inside was a simple diamond ring. I don't want to hide behind a screen anymore. He looked into her eyes. Emma, will you give me the chance to build a real life with you? She stared at the ring, then at him, and before she could answer, a voice came from behind them. Alexander. They turned. His father stood at the entrance. His face was furious, and beside him stood Victoria. Alexander slowly rose. His father's eyes moved toward Emma. You have no idea what you've just done. Emma instinctively stepped closer to Alexander. His father continued. If you marry her, you lose everything. Alexander looked at Emma, then at his father, and for the first time in his life, he didn't hesitate. Then I'll lose everything. His father's face went pale. Alexander. Alexander reached for Emma's hand. Because she's worth more to me than all of it. Alexander's words echoed through the cold night. Because she's worth more to me than all of it. Emma stared at him. She had never heard anyone speak about her that way. Not her former boyfriend, not her coworkers, not even the people she had grown up with. But Alexander had just been willing to walk away from his entire inheritance for her. His father stepped forward. You're making a mistake. Alexander didn't move. No, for the first time, I'm making my own decision. Victoria looked furious. You can't throw away your family's legacy for a woman you met online. Alexander's eyes hardened. You're still not listening. He looked at Emma. She isn't just someone I met online. His voice softened. She became my home before I ever knew what she looked like. Emma's eyes filled with tears. His father shook his head. Come home. No, you'll regret this. Maybe. Alexander squeezed Emma's hand. But I'd regret losing her more. His father stared at him for several seconds before turning away. This isn't over. Victoria followed him. The moment they disappeared, Emma pulled her hand away. You shouldn't have done that. Alexander looked confused. Done what? Chosen me. Why? Because your family hates me. My family doesn't know you. They don't need to. Emma looked down. They already decided I'm not good enough. Alexander stepped closer. Emma, look at me. She did. You spent your whole life believing you had to prove that you deserved a place at someone's table. He gently touched her hand. You don't. A tear slipped down her cheek. You deserve to be loved without having to earn it. Emma couldn't speak. Alexander looked at the ring still resting in his palm. I won't ask again tonight. He closed the box. But I hope one day you'll say yes. The next morning, the internet exploded. Someone had photographed Alexander and Emma outside the gala. Within hours, their picture was everywhere. Billionaire CEO's secret girlfriend revealed. Who is the mystery woman? Alexander Carter rejects family arrangement. Emma stared at the headlines in disbelief. This can't be real. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Her coworkers were whispering. People were staring. Then her manager called her into the office. We need to talk. Emma sat down. Am I being fired? No, the manager sighed. But this situation is becoming complicated. I didn't leak anything. I know. Emma looked toward the window. I never wanted this. I believe you. The manager pushed a folder across the desk. There are rumors that you used your relationship with Alexander to get promoted. Emma's face went pale. That isn't true. I know, but some people don't. Emma closed her eyes. Everything she had worked for was suddenly being questioned. Her career, her reputation, her relationship, everything. Then the door opened. Alexander walked in. She's not going anywhere. The manager immediately stood. Mr. Carter. Alexander raised a hand. Emma earned her position before anyone knew who she was dating. He looked at both of them. If anyone questions her qualifications, they can question mine, too. Emma stared at him. Alexander. He turned toward her. I'm not going to let you face this alone. But the problems didn't stop. That afternoon, Emma received an anonymous message. Stay away from Alexander, or you'll regret it. Her hands began shaking. A second message arrived. You don't know what his family is capable of. Emma immediately deleted both. She didn't tell Alexander. She didn't want another fight. She didn't want him sacrificing more because of her. So she made a decision. She would leave. That evening, Emma packed a small suitcase. She had already accepted a job offer from another company. She looked around her apartment, then at the old phone where she had first met Alex. A tear fell onto the screen. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I love you too much to destroy your life." Alexander arrived at her apartment 20 minutes later. He knocked, no answer. He knocked again. "Emma!" Silence. Then he noticed the door wasn't completely closed. He pushed it open. Her apartment was empty. On the table was a single envelope. His name was written across it. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a short letter. "Alexander, I wanted to stay. More than anything. But your family, your company, and your entire world are being damaged because of me. I don't want to become the reason you lose everything. You once told me I didn't have to carry everything alone. Now I'm telling you the same thing. Don't follow me. Please let me go." Alexander read the final sentence twice. His chest tightened. "Emma." He ran outside, but she was already gone. 3 months passed. Emma started over in another city. She found a small apartment, a new job, a new routine, but she couldn't find peace. Every night, she still checked her phone. There were no messages from Alexander, not one. At first, she thought he had forgotten her. Then she learned the truth. Alexander had stepped down as CEO. His father had taken control of the company, and Alexander had disappeared from the public eye. Emma stared at the news article. "Alexander Carter resigns from family business." Her hands went cold. He actually did it. He had walked away for her, but she still didn't know where he was. One rainy evening, Emma returned home from work. As she reached her apartment building, she noticed someone standing across the street. A tall man. Black coat, hands in his pockets. Her heart stopped. She knew that silhouette. She crossed the street slowly. The man turned Alexander. Emma couldn't breathe. "What are you doing here?" He smiled. "I waited 3 months. For what? For you to stop running." She shook her head. "You shouldn't be here. I know. You lost your company. I know. Your family hates me. I know. You gave up everything." Alexander stepped closer. "No." He looked into her eyes. "I gave up the things I never wanted." Emma's lips trembled. "And what do you want?" He reached into his coat. The same ring box appeared. "I want you." Emma began crying. "You should hate me. I tried. And I failed." She laughed through her tears. Alexander opened the box. "I don't have a billion-dollar company anymore." He smiled softly. "I don't have my family's approval." He took her hand. "But I still have the woman I fell in love with." Emma looked at the ring, then at him. This time, she didn't hesitate. "Yes." Alexander froze. "What?" Emma smiled through her tears. "Yes." He stared at her as if he couldn't believe it. "You're saying yes?" "Yes, Alex." The name hit him harder than anything else. She still called him Alex. The man from the screen. The man she had loved before she knew he was a billionaire. Before she knew his family. Before she knew his name. Alexander pulled her into his arms. And for the first time in months, Emma finally felt like she was home. 3 weeks after Emma said yes, Alexander made a decision that surprised everyone. He didn't want a massive billionaire wedding. He didn't want celebrities. He didn't want reporters. He didn't even want his family's mansion. He wanted something simple. Just Emma. But simple wasn't easy when your last name was Carter. The moment Alexander announced their engagement, the news exploded again. Former billionaire CEO to marry mystery woman. Alexander Carter chooses love over family fortune. Emma read the headlines and sighed. "I hate this." Alexander looked up from his coffee. "Then we won't read them. You're not curious?" "No, not even a little." He smiled. "I already know the only opinion that matters." Emma looked at him. "Whose?" "Yours." She smiled. "That was a very good answer. I've had practice." But while Emma and Alexander planned their future, Someone else was planning something completely different. Alexander's father refused to accept the engagement. He called Alexander repeatedly. Alexander ignored every call. Finally, one afternoon, his father arrived at their apartment. Emma opened the door. The older man looked at her. For the first time, there was no anger in his eyes, only exhaustion. "May I come in?" Emma hesitated, then stepped aside. Alexander appeared from the kitchen. "Dad." His father looked at him. "I came alone." Alexander remained silent. His father slowly sat down. "I was wrong." Alexander's expression changed. "What? I thought money could protect this family." He looked toward Emma. "And I thought choosing someone outside our world would destroy it." Emma didn't know what to say. His father continued. "But then I watched my son walk away from everything, without hesitation." He looked at Alexander. "You were happier after losing the company than you were while running it." Alexander said nothing. His father stood. "I can't promise that everything will be easy." Then he turned toward Emma. "But I won't stand in your way anymore." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." His father nodded. Then he walked toward the door. Before leaving, he stopped. "Alexander." "Yes?" "You were always the stubborn one." Alexander smiled faintly. "I learned from you." His father actually laughed. It was the first time Emma had ever heard it. The wedding day arrived 6 weeks later. It wasn't in a luxury hotel. It wasn't in a palace. It was in a small garden where Emma's mother had once loved sitting. White flowers surrounded the aisle. There were only 30 guests, no reporters, no cameras, no business executives, just family and friends. Emma stood at the entrance. Her hands trembled. Then the music began. Alexander turned. The moment he saw her, everything else disappeared. He wasn't thinking about money, his family, his company, his reputation. He was thinking about the first night they talked online. The woman who had made him laugh. The woman who had listened to him when he couldn't sleep. The woman who had disappeared because she loved him, enough to think his happiness mattered more than her own. Now she was walking toward him, his future wife. Emma reached him. Alexander whispered, "You came back." She smiled. "You came after me." He took her hands. "I'll always come after you." The ceremony was simple, beautiful. When it was time for their vows, Alexander looked directly into Emma's eyes. "I don't promise you a perfect life." Emma smiled. "I don't need one. I don't promise you'll never cry." "I know, but I promise you'll never cry alone." Emma's eyes filled with tears. Alexander continued. "I met you through a screen, but you taught me what it means to truly see someone." Emma squeezed his hands. "And you taught me that love isn't about having everything." She smiled. "It's about having someone who stays when everything else disappears." Their guests became silent. Then the officiant smiled. "You may kiss." Alexander leaned toward her. Emma laughed softly. Finally, he kissed her gently. Everyone applauded. For one beautiful moment, the world felt perfect, but neither of them knew that someone was watching from outside the garden. Someone who had never accepted their relationship. Victoria. She stood beside a black car, staring through the gates. Her phone rang. She answered. "It's done." A man's voice came through the phone. "Are you sure?" "Yes." Victoria looked at Alexander and Emma. "They're married." "And the documents?" "I have them." "Good." Victoria smiled. "Now we take back what belongs to the Carter family." That night, Emma and Alexander returned to their new home. It wasn't the Carter mansion. It was a beautiful house Alexander had purchased quietly months earlier. Emma walked through the front door. "This is ours?" Alexander nodded. "All of it." She looked around. Then she noticed something on the wall. A framed screenshot from their very first online conversation. Emma stared. "You kept this?" Alexander smiled. "Of course," she laughed. "You're ridiculous. You married me." "That doesn't mean you're not ridiculous." He pulled her closer. "I'll take that as a compliment." Emma rested her head against his chest. For the first time, there was no distance between them, no secret identity, no computer screen, no fear. just two people who had somehow found each other in the strangest possible way. Then Alexander's phone rang. He glanced at the screen. His smile disappeared. Emma noticed immediately. What happened? He didn't answer. Alexander. He slowly looked at her. My father. What about him? He's been taken to the hospital. Emma's heart dropped. Is he okay? Alexander grabbed his coat. I don't know. They rushed outside. Neither of them noticed the black car parked across the street. And inside it, Victoria watched them leave. She smiled. Now the real game begins. Alexander drove through the rain faster than he ever had before. Emma sat beside him, gripping her seatbelt. Do you know what happened? No. Who called you? The hospital. His jaw was tight. They said my father collapsed at home. Emma reached for his hand. He'll be okay. Alexander didn't answer. He only tightened his grip on the steering wheel. When they arrived, doctors rushed past them. Alexander ran toward the emergency room. I'm Alexander Carter. My father was brought here. A nurse checked the records. He's in surgery. What happened? The nurse hesitated. Your father suffered severe internal injuries. Alexander froze. Injuries? Yes. Emma looked at him. That doesn't sound like a normal collapse. Alexander's face went pale. What are you saying? The nurse lowered her voice. Police are investigating. For the next 2 hours, they waited. Emma stayed beside Alexander. He didn't speak. He simply stared at the operating room doors. Finally, a doctor came out. Alexander stood immediately. How is he? He survived the surgery. Alexander exhaled. But? The doctor hesitated. He was severely beaten. Emma covered her mouth. Alexander's expression changed completely. Who did this? We don't know yet. Was anything stolen? Apparently not. Alexander looked confused. So, why attack him? The doctor shook his head. You'll need to speak with the police. A detective arrived shortly afterward. He introduced himself and opened a notebook. Mr. Carter, your father was attacked inside his own home. Alexander nodded. Do you know who did it? Not yet. Was there forced entry? No. That answer immediately caught Alexander's attention. So he knew the person. That's our assumption. Emma suddenly remembered something. Alexander. He looked at her. The message. What message? The anonymous message I received before we left the city. Alexander's face changed. What message? Emma took out her phone. She showed him the threatening texts. The detective looked carefully. When did you receive these? 3 months ago. Why didn't you report them? Emma lowered her eyes. I was scared. The detective looked at Alexander. Did your father know about these? No. The detective wrote something down. This changes things. How? Someone may have been trying to scare you away from the Carter family. Alexander stared at him. Who? The detective closed the notebook. We're going to find out. Later that night, Alexander sat beside his father's hospital bed. His father was unconscious. Emma stood near the window. She watched Alexander hold the older man's hand. For the first time, she saw how much pain existed behind his confident exterior. Alexander whispered, You almost left me. Emma's heart broke. She walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. You still have him? Alexander looked up. Because of you. Because of the doctors. No. He shook his head. Because you made me come here. Emma frowned. I didn't do anything. You stayed. He looked at her. When everything fell apart, you stayed. Emma smiled gently. That's what married people do. Alexander's eyes softened. Say that again. What? Married people. Emma laughed. We're married. He smiled. I like hearing it. The next morning, Alexander's father woke up. His first words shocked everyone. Victoria. Alexander leaned forward. What about Victoria? His father's breathing was weak. She knows. Knows what? His father looked toward Emma, then back at Alexander, the company. Alexander frowned. What about it? His father whispered. Your resignation wasn't the end. What do you mean? The shares. He struggled to speak. Someone transferred them. Alexander's face went pale. To whom? His father closed his eyes. Victoria's family. Silence filled the room. Alexander stepped back. That can't be possible, his father continued. Your grandfather's old trust. Alexander remembered something. Years ago, his grandfather had created a private trust controlling a large portion of the family company. Only 3 people had access: his father, Alexander, and one other person. Alexander's eyes widened. Victoria's father. His father nodded weakly. He has been trying to take control for years. Emma looked at Alexander. So this wasn't about you and me. Alexander's expression darkened. It was bigger. The detective entered the room. We just found something. He placed a photograph on the table. It showed a security camera image from outside Alexander's father's house. A man was entering the property. Alexander stared at the image. He recognized him. That's Victoria's brother, the detective nodded. And there's more. He placed another photograph beside it. This one showed Victoria meeting the same man. Emma's heart began racing. Alexander looked at the detective. What are you saying? We believe the attack on your father may be connected to an attempt to take control of Carter Global. Alexander's fists tightened. Then why threaten Emma? The detective looked at him. Because whoever is behind this knows one thing. What? Emma is the one person you would risk everything to protect. Alexander turned toward his wife, his expression filled with fear, which means she's their next target. That evening, Alexander refused to let Emma leave his side. They returned home with security around the property. Emma looked at him. You're scared. Yes, she hadn't expected such an honest answer. Of losing the company? Alexander shook his head. Of losing you. Emma stepped closer. You won't. He held her tightly, then his phone rang. The number was blocked. Alexander answered. Silence, then a distorted voice spoke. You should have stayed away from her. Alexander froze. Who is this? You were warned. The call ended. Emma looked at him. What happened? Alexander slowly lowered the phone. Then another message appeared. A photograph. Emma looked at the screen. It was a picture of her leaving work that afternoon, taken from across the street. Her face went pale. Someone had been watching her, and they were much closer than Alexander had realized. Alexander stared at the photograph on his phone. Emma was standing outside her office. Someone had been watching her. His entire body went cold. Pack a bag. Emma looked at him. What? We're leaving tonight. Alexander, running won't solve anything. I know. He looked at the photograph again. But keeping you here isn't safe. Emma stepped closer. Then don't protect me by sending me away. Alexander looked into her eyes. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm your wife. She took his hand. Whatever happens next, we face it together. For a moment, Alexander said nothing. Then he pulled her into his arms. You're braver than I am. Emma smiled against his chest. No, I just love you. The next morning, the detective arrived with unexpected news. We found the person who sent the threats. Alexander immediately stood. Who? The detective placed a phone on the table. Victoria's brother. Emma's heart sank. But there's something else, he continued. He confessed. Alexander's expression hardened. What did he confess? The attack on your father. Silence filled the room, he said. Victoria's father ordered it. Alexander closed his eyes. Everything suddenly made sense. The threats, the photographs, the attack, the company shares. All of it had been part of one plan. They wanted me gone, Alexander whispered. The detective nodded. And they wanted your father unable to stop them. Emma looked at Alexander. Will they go to prison? If the evidence holds, yes. But there was still one final problem. Carter Global was on the verge of collapse. Without Alexander's leadership, investors were leaving. Employees were terrified. The board demanded answers. Alexander stood in front of the boardroom for the first time since resigning. His father was still recovering. Everyone expected him to reclaim the company. Instead, Alexander said something nobody expected. I don't want my father's company. The room went silent. I want to rebuild it. One board member frowned. Without the Carter family? Alexander nodded. with the employees who built it. He looked toward Emma, who stood quietly near the back of the room. For years, this company was treated like an inheritance. He paused. I want it to become something people are proud to work for. The board voted. Alexander won, not because of his family name, because the employees chose him. Months passed. The scandal disappeared from the headlines. Victoria and her family faced criminal charges. Alexander's father recovered slowly, and Carter Global began rebuilding. But Alexander changed too. He no longer worked until midnight every night. He stopped measuring his life by numbers. And every evening, he came home to Emma. One night, Emma was sitting on the balcony when Alexander walked outside. He held 2 cups of coffee. Your favorite, she smiled. You remembered. I always remember. She took the cup. They sat together quietly. After a few minutes, Alexander said, Do you remember the first night we talked? Emma laughed. You mean when you lied about your name? I apologized for that. Not enough, he smiled. What if I told you I'd do it all over again? I'd block you. He laughed. Then he became serious. I was lonely. Emma looked at him. So was I. I didn't know I was looking for you. Neither did I. He took her hand. Funny how life works. Emma rested her head on his shoulder. Sometimes the person you're searching for is already closer than you think. Alexander smiled. That's exactly what happened to me. A year later, Emma returned to the same garden, where they had gotten married. Alexander had arranged something unexpected. Their families were there. Their closest friends were there. Even his father was standing beside the flowers, and smiling. Emma looked confused. What is this? Alexander walked toward her. You'll see. He handed her a small box. Emma opened it. Inside was a phone. She laughed. Why are you giving me a phone? Open it. She did. On the screen was their very first conversation. The same words, the same messages, the beginning of everything. Emma looked up with tears in her eyes. You kept all of it. Every message. Why? Alexander smiled. Because before you became my wife, you were the woman who made a lonely man believe he could be loved for who he really was. Emma hugged him. Then Alexander whispered, and I wanted you to remember where our story began. Emma smiled. Online. Online, she laughed. And then you became my boss. Yes. And then my husband. Yes. And somehow you survived all of that. Alexander laughed. Barely. Everyone around them laughed. Emma looked at him. I wouldn't change a thing. Not even the lies, she thought for a moment. Maybe those. Alexander smiled. Fair enough. That evening, they returned home. Emma placed the old phone beside their wedding photograph. 2 completely different worlds. One screen, one real life, one love story. Alexander walked behind her and wrapped his arms around her. Emma, if you could go back to the night we first met online? She turned around. What would you say to me? She smiled. I'd tell you to stop pretending to be someone you're not. Alexander laughed. And then? Emma kissed his cheek. I'd tell you to stay. He held her closer. I would outside. The city lights glittered through the windows. There were no cameras, no headlines, no family arguments, no threats, just the quiet life they had fought so hard to build. The billionaire who had once hidden behind a screen had finally found something money could never buy. And the woman who thought she wasn't enough had finally found someone who never asked her to prove her worth. Emma looked at Alexander. You know what the strangest part is? What? I almost left before we ever had a chance. He kissed her forehead. But you didn't. No. She smiled. I stayed. Alexander smiled back. And I'll spend the rest of my life being grateful that you did. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers. Your one subscription means so much to us. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your small support makes a big difference.